Someone recently asked if I would make a video on hair and hair loss, so I wanted to just take a minute and sit down and walk through both some Eastern and Western approaches to how to avoid hair loss and also how to deal with it if it is something that you're struggling with. Alexa here, helping you to make sense out of spirituality and health related shit. I personally have dealt with a significant amount of hair loss. I used to have really thick hair. When I was diagnosed with celiac disease, my hair started thinning quite a bit. As you might be able to see from my scalp, it's still not superbly wonderful, but it's definitely in better condition than it was a few years ago. So I'm gonna share what has worked best for me, as well as a couple lenses that you can adopt to figure out how to best address what you are currently going through. So let's get right on into it. Of course, there are hereditary causes to hair loss and aging causes to hair loss as well. I'm not going to tackle those quite as much because we don't have quite as much control over those elements, but I will address those when we get to the what can you do about it section. So I'm going to start out by talking about causes of hair loss, and if you want to fix hair loss, no pun intended, you really need to solve the root issue. So if you don't already know what it is that's causing your hair loss, a few of the next things I might mention might help point you in the direction that you need to go to figure that out. So the first perspective I'm going to bring in is actually a traditional Chinese medicine perspective. Oftentimes in traditional Chinese medicine, when people are dealing with hair loss, it's characterized as being a symptom of having either liver or kidney deficiencies, as well as blood deficiencies. One important thing to remember is that hair is essentially an extension of your blood. If you don't have healthy, rich blood going up into the scalp to nourish the hair follicles and also the hair that's growing out, then your hair is probably not going to be growing as healthily as you would like to see it. So from an emotional perspective, things like nervousness, depression, and mental instability can actually increase the production of what's called internal heat. This presents an imbalance, and what that imbalance can do is deplete your body of nutrients in trying to address that imbalance. As your body is depleted of the nutrients that it needs, it's going to increase the amount of hair loss that you are seeing. So when we look at it this way, the kidney and the liver are in part responsible for getting the nutrients into your bloodstream that's going to then go up into your hair and give you nice, beautiful locks. So if you have deficiencies in your kidney or your liver, your body's not able to get those nutrients to the places where they need to go. On the flip side, if you have good kidney and liver condition, but there is blood stagnation going on somewhere in your body, then the blood is still not able to go up to the hair to encourage that production process. So from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, you're either looking at a deficiency in your liver or your kidneys and or a subsequent failure of blood to go up to nourish the hair. The next thing that you should be looking at is your hormones. Are your hormones working properly? Typically speaking, people who have hypothyroidism, it's really common to lose hair or have thin hair, brittle hair, dry hair. Any kind of hair issues a lot of the times can be correlated to your thyroid. So you want to make sure that you're getting your thyroid levels checked. Also, this is just my own personal opinion, but when looking at thyroid, sometimes doctors can say, oh, well, you're within the lab range, so your thyroid is fine. But in my experience at the medical office that I worked at, a lot of the patients would come in and show a ton of different symptoms of low thyroid, but their lab levels looked normal. With that being said, all of the symptoms were there and they were treated for having hypothyroidism, and it actually really improved significantly everything across the board for them. So I'm not saying that that's something that you should do. You should definitely not take my advice and replace medical advice for it, but I would encourage you to look into that if that is something that you're like, well, my levels were normal, but everything else that is consistent with low thyroid I'm really dealing with. The third thing to look into if you're dealing with hair loss is medication. What are you putting into your body? A lot of the times people may experience hair loss with the following medications: antibiotics, antidepressants, anti-epileptics, anticoagulants, cardiovascular medications such as beta blockers, acne medicine, steroids, and hormone replacement therapies. Sometimes your hormone replacement therapy may do great things for your hair, sometimes it may do horrible things. Also, from a personal perspective, what I've dealt with as a young woman, birth control really did have adverse effects on my hair as well, so if you are on birth control, that is another factor that you could consider. On the topic of what you're putting into your body, number 4 is actually toxins and chemicals. If you are using products that have tons of chemicals in them, I can tell you you're probably not doing your scalp any favors. They can be harsh, they can be irritating, your body has a lot to process, and just throwing more into the mix, generally speaking, doesn't normally help. In my opinion, less is more for the most case. So if you are struggling with hair loss and you're using like 50 different products to help boost your hair growth, and they're synthetic based products, I would highly encourage you to look a little bit closer at what you are doing. I will get into some more natural remedies very soon here, so just hold on tight, we're almost there. The 5th thing that can affect your hair growth and hair loss is your stress levels. Oh my God, I know stress affects everything, but it really, really does. If you are under crazy amounts of stress, it is not uncommon to be losing hair. I think stress is kind of an extension of the hormone side of things that I had mentioned earlier, but it's a testament to the idea that if your body is significantly out of balance, it's going to show, and for different people, it's going to show in different ways, and it's important to pay attention to that. But if you are noticing a lot of hair loss, definitely make sure that you're monitoring your stress levels and thinking about those. The sixth topic that you should look into if you are dealing with hair loss is the concept of nutrients and nutritional deficiencies. It is really common to see people dealing with hair loss if they have deficiencies in vitamin A, vitamin D, zinc, iron, or essential fatty acids. If you don't have the nutrients you need for your body to produce what it needs to produce, then guess what? It's not going to produce it. And I know I'm jumping through the causes, but I really want to get to what you can do about it. So the seventh and final topic that I have for you, which is definitely not the last thing that can contribute to hair loss, but definitely the last thing that I have on my list that I would encourage you to immediately look into, is your intestinal health, especially if you have allergies. I have celiac disease. As noted, when I was diagnosed, I suffered a lot of hair loss because my body was not able to absorb the nutrients from my food. And again, this is kind of an extension of the last one. But if there's anything going on internally that's causing your body to really struggle to absorb nutrients and then spread them throughout your body, then again, you're gonna see these issues manifesting in your physical body. So with all that being said, let's move into what can you do about it and how can you solve these issues or work your way towards having healthier hair and healthier scalp. My first tip for you is to get blood work done and have a good idea of where your body is at. If you are dealing with severe nutritional deficiencies and you don't know, how the hell are you going to treat those? If your blood levels are super low of any single nutrient, especially ones that are vital for hair growth, then that's definitely a really strong and also targeted place for you to start looking at. The second piece of advice for you I have is to make sure that you're paying attention to your nutrition, paying attention to what you're putting into your body. And tip number 3, what you're putting on top of your body. Anything that you put on your skin, your body is going to absorb. Whether or not you're swallowing it or putting it on your skin, really, to me, it makes no difference. Your body is still absorbing whatever those chemicals, toxins, nutrients, anything, whatever those are, your body is still absorbing it. I would definitely encourage you to make sure that you're staying away from pro-inflammatory foods. If you have questions as to what that means or what that might look like, please feel free to shoot me a message or comment below. And if it's requested, I'm happy to address that in a separate video. Make sure you're paying attention to what your body is taking in. I would also recommend decreasing the amount of products that you're using that have a bunch of chemicals or unnatural additives in them. Start getting familiar with label reading. My rule of thumb with food and products in general is if you're reading the label and you don't know what something is, that might be a questionable sign, especially if it's something that's not made in nature. I'm not paid to say this, but I personally use Morocco Method, and it's one of my absolute favorites because every single item on the back of every single one of their products, I know what it is. And if you don't want to use Morocco Method, that's not a problem. There's plenty of other brands out there, but make sure that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that they don't have any additional additives that are unnecessary. I also, in general, recommend looking for products that are biodegradable because let's be honest, if the earth can't break it down, why would your body be able to? Another thing you can do to stimulate hair growth is to do scalp massages. Anything that's going to encourage circulation of the blood into that area, especially as noted before, if you're not getting enough nutrient-rich blood going to that area, stimulating the hair follicle will actually help to bring fresh blood to that area and help with the growing process. So again, not to pimp them out, but Morocco Method does have like a little brush that you can massage in your head in circular motions while you're shampooing it. I found that to be really helpful. You can also just use your fingers and do hair massages frequently. If you would also like to add oils to the blend, I would recommend that. Some essential oils that can be really helpful for stimulating circulation are rosemary, sage, lavender, thyme, and cedar. What you want to do with these is add about 3 to 4 drops to 1 tablespoon of jojoba oil or grapeseed oil or even coconut oil, and then massage that into your hair daily. We're getting subtly more and more hippie as we go, but this next point I just think is really interesting, is to pay attention to the lunar phases. If you want to increase the speed of your hair growth, it's actually advised to cut your hair between the new and the full moon. So this is when the moon is in the waxing phase. This phase is often associated with regeneration. So from a holistic, everything is interconnected perspective, it's actually the ideal time to cut your hair because it's going to encourage your body to promote that hair growth. If on the other hand you have short hair and you would like to encourage your hair to stay short, then it's recommended that you cut your hair during the waning phase of the moon or between the full moon and the new moon. So again, if you're trying to make your hair grow faster between new and full moon, that's when you want to cut. If you're trying to make your hair grow slower, between full and new moon, that's when you want to cut your hair. And the last point, which just goes for everything health wellness in general, is to make sure that you are addressing your stress levels if they are too high. If you're constantly overtraining, over-exercising, fatiguing yourself, maybe take some extra time to rest. If you're overworking, sitting in the car all the time, not getting your body moving, then try something the opposite. Try to get your body moving. Find the perfect balance. You know, for some people, they need to increase their exercise. For some people, they actually need to decrease their exercise. And it's important to be super honest with yourself about where you're at. And some days that may look different. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this was helpful. If you haven't already, please make sure that you follow me on Instagram. I did change my Instagram handle to Alexa B Health Coach. It was previously Alexa B Health Architect. So if you watched any of my previous videos or go back to any of my previous videos in the future, just know that my handle now is Alexa B Health Coach. If you like this video or found it helpful, please let me know so that I know to keep creating videos like this and producing this kind of content. You can either comment below, shoot me a message on Instagram, shoot me an email, I don't care, whatever works best for you. But I do really appreciate the feedback, even if it's just liking the video or subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good holiday.